Oh, hello, Dr. Milu. Thank you so much. I'm doing well. I hope you are better too.
Yes, I'm doing much better, and the weather is a little bit cooler, and recently we had the time change. So now we get to sleep 1 hour extra. So that's fantastic, right?
It is.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me, so our theme for the month for Vino and Vision is happiness. And I would like to discuss something around happiness and how coaching can help people to find that, because all the 9 modules of Vino and Vision coaching program designed to reach the destination, which is happiness. So like, for example, and I'll give you a quick example of our module. It's a three-dimensional program: the strategic mindset, self-dimension, and relational dimension. And each of the dimension have 3 modules. So strategic mindset have aspiration, vision, and dream. And self dimension, we have motivation, positivity, and self discovery, right? But the relational dimension is the third dimension, and this one has self love, love, and happiness. So, relational aspect, the happiness is connected with these three dimension, and eventually in the self-love, love leads to happiness. So that's a fantastic way of discussing how coaching can change people's life, and that's what our key objective in coaching is, to help people to become happier. So what do you think about that?
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing about your program. I think it's wonderful because you're sharing in different points that I would say I would call for myself spokes of a wheel that work together to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of happiness, I really like the idea of relating. I think also relating has much to do with communicating, communication internally, so our inner talk, whatever that looks like, but also how we relate to others, how we hear them, how they hear us. Are we able to understand each other and connect? Because I think happiness also has to do with the fundamental of self-understanding, compassion, which also supports compassion of understanding of others too. And in that, we can begin to find happiness even in times that perhaps are a little challenging. And what I mean by that is that there's always a gem, and it might not be apparent at the time when we're experiencing it because it's important to honor where we are. But the outcome of that is strength. And that, again, the strength in relating to self and other, the strength in seeing ourselves in others and others in ourselves, and being honest and transparent is related to the authenticity of communicating, relating, and finding the gems of happiness, the gems of wisdom that would be supportive for our own evolution within that. I know I've unpacked quite a lot of things in a short space.
Well, you are right about that, is relating and connecting. So as we look at the coaching space and how we are coaching people, is the relational dimension comes into play significantly, is relating and connecting. So one of the key way of connecting is connecting with yourself, right? Understanding yourself and finding the passion, finding what you are here for. Remember, in this world, nobody is here permanently forever, right? So we have a limited time, and that's the time we have to nurture and relate to, see why we are here, right? The why question. So we have to relate to that why. And if you look at all the dimensions of Vino and Vision, is searching for that why, including the strategic mindset is where we are looking for aspiration, vision, and dream. And if you look at that three angles, all of them connecting to that self. The self is us, self is the I, and self is where it's connecting to. And there we are looking at our coachees aspiration, and we are looking at their vision, and we are looking at their dream. That creates a strategic mindset, forms a strategic bonding of how do we move forward. That's the connecting to the why, right? And with the self, and the next dimension in the self, we go deeper into that. We go to find out self-discovery, where we are finding ourselves, who we are. So, we are finding our why, but at the same time, we are finding who we are. What are we made of, right? So it's kind of understanding the self moves into the positivity side of it, which is the next module, is focusing on how you grow and start thinking positively. As we mentioned about limited time, just think about that. In the limited time, you can do so many things, but then you don't have unlimited time. So you need to do whatever you do in a positive mindset. So converting your positivity and then motivation. And once you're, in the self dimension, the motivation drives the self. And what we are talking about in this month of November, where we are getting ready to celebrate Thanksgiving and giving thanks to many things that we have achieved in our life and our community and our friends and family, it comes back to that relational angle, right? So in the relational dimension, we talk about self-love, which is, connecting with self again. And then the love dimension, where a love module, where we look at relationship with each other. And the happiness is the ultimate destination of what is the relationship with each other looks like. And that's what creates family, that's what creates friends, that's what creates community, that's what creates the the entire population of the world, how we connect to each other. And that's where the happiness reside in our view, in Vino and Vision coaching model, that you have to be connected no matter where you are and what you do. Is that something, I believe you mentioned it already, the connection and relational aspect, right? And in happiness, that's what we are seeing.
So thank you. That's wonderful. I have a few things I would like to share. So I feel that perhaps looking at the definition of happiness is something important for each individual. So when I have sessions with my esteemed clients, we discuss, what does happiness feel like, look like to you? Because we could have a scientific definition, we could have a dictionary definition, but that doesn't encompass the variation and the needs of everybody. That's more of a thinking, intellectual game. But really, as humans, we're thinking, feeling, and doing. Sometimes called thinking, feeling, and willing. So I think that's an important piece to bring into play. I also think that, my focus, not the only focus, but one of the focuses for me is stress and trauma recovery. So when I'm supporting individuals through adversity, like divorce, or if there is narcissistic relating in a relationship or a past relationship, it's really working through the adversity to find our strength that brings out parts of the individual that were either suppressed in childhood or through experiences, or their blocks and the trauma is looping. There are many intricate parts of this because it gets complex. So we can't go into all of it. We don't have enough time. But what I do want to say is that if people are in adversity, sometimes it's difficult to find the positivity through the adversity without the facilitation and support. And I'm talking about this on many different dimensions. So there's the spiritual, the mental, the emotional, the physical, because everything is interrelated. Everything is interrelated. And so, even our gut bacteria is related to how we think and feel. So when we're stressed, our gut bacteria actually is affected. So looking at it from these global perspectives, which is how I come to questions in life, to supporting my clients through these questions and strategies to get to where they want to. I really wanted to bring that to the table because I think it's interesting, and I think it supports your vision and Vision's strategic perspective in terms of the pursuit of happiness. And the other thing I want to say, if I may, is often in society, we have an erroneous or very superficial idea of what happiness might be.
Mm-hmm.
Social
Yes.
media tends to support this when it's not used well. So social media suggests that, doing certain things, engaging in certain activities means that we're happy. And there's always an image, a mask, a portrayal of what that might be. But actually, what we're looking for is deep connection.
Mm-hmm.
And like we just discussed, that deep connection really comes with the authenticity of where am I today? What does it feel like to be me today? And what are the needs for me? What vulnerabilities do I have that are not being addressed, or needs that are not being addressed for myself, by myself first? And are these things that I need support and facilitation with, which coaches can support with? How might that look like? So if we start to ask ourselves these questions and put things into place in terms of how we use social media to connect, how it's feeding us, there is a difference between how we feed upon information, or the way that we feed when we receive information, and nourishing. And I think nourishing, as you can tell with the energetics of the words, I like to play with energetics of words and how they feel, because it's true when somebody speaks to you, how you feel around them are the words that they use. So nourishing really is about seeing how something touches you inside, how it makes you feel, and how lasting it is. A feeding is, I have this need, I need to find something to quickly feed and digest. Well, we digest emotions, words, food in very much the same way, because the subconscious mind is the body. So, and experiences too. And so, I find that looking at this from this global perspective does support in enlarging the discussion, even though we only have half an hour. There are many points I brought up, and it's an unpacking of sorts, but we can't go into it too much. But I think it's interesting, and it's food for thought,
Yes, yes. And the multi-dimensional aspect of it that you are mentioning about emotional, physical, and all those items that you mentioned is relating with each. How do you relate to that? So when somebody come to us, and especially in coaching session, we discover that happiness actually is within, and then how that inside connect with the outside, how the inside connects with the outside. And if the connection has discrepancy, or connection have some faults, that's where we find the happiness is not the level that we want, right? So connecting inside with the outside is a very important area that everybody need to focus on. So when I discuss about the global connection, and we mentioned the we culture, and in that discussion, care wisdom, we talk about how we care for each other. It's a relational dimension. So in the happiness module itself, its focus on is that. So why we are here, what we want from life, how happy we are. right? These are key questions. So if we have that limited time we talked about, do we make that time more useful in a manner that is more productive, more happier, more engaged, more connected, right? So if you look at that angle, so you can see that, okay, so limited time, everybody has 24 hours a day. With the daylight saving times, I may have gained 1 extra hour of sleep, but everybody has the same amount of time, 24 hours a day. And sometimes I think like we waste so much time by sleeping, because that is a time that we are not connecting with outside. But it's not a waste, it's connecting with ourselves. Everything we digest or everything we absorb, everything we connect all day long in sleep, that processes in our background, in our memory, in our conscious and subconscious mind, and it gets stored, it gets shelved in a bookshelf, whatever way we do it. But that gives us a processing power. The next day we wake up with the mindset of fully happy and engaged. And that's the essential thing that we all have to understand, that connecting inside with outside is what happens when we wake up, right? When we wake up in the morning. Now we are not just ourselves, we have the whole society, whole world in front of us. How do we connect, right? So the best way to do this is make the best of it. The best way to do it is make the best of it. So every moment you have in your life, use it to the fullest that you can, right? In connection and relational dimension. So it's fascinating area of discussion that intrigue me all the time, is that we have a global population and possibly now 8 billion people, right? And how do we all get connected? Now, key thought here is we are already connected. We just have not discussed yet, or we just have not met yet. So think about today or tomorrow when you are going somewhere and you meeting somebody for the very first time, right? Very first time. And that relationship can form for all your life, entire life. So that single relationship that we look for, it's waiting for us every single day. And we have the entire world to connect with. So the connection is we just have not met yet. We're just waiting to be connected. So that's where the happiness resides, the making the best of each and every connection. What do you think about that?
Well, thank you. I think that is very important, to make the most of each moment. And I think the way I'm hearing what you're saying is that it's about presencing. So being present to the moment as much as possible, so that we're able to engage with the moment. So I am going to put my stress and trauma recovery hat on because that's part of what I do. So and before we start, I want to add, there is a reason why I have the cosmos behind me. When we talked about multidimensional, it came to my mind. So I want to add that little tidbit before we get into the serious talk. But I feel that also adversity does support finding the depths of who we are and the strength and reservoir of resilience we have. And in that, there is a deeper form of inner peace, which brings the happiness and connection. So when I speak to some of my clients who are in trauma and stress recovery about resilience, we talk about being authentically understanding where they're disconnected first, because an understanding, not because we want to sit there, but we want to understand ourselves better. Like you said, it's an internal process that is understanding our internal realities from a feeling, thinking, and doing perspective. And as we do that, we're then able to come to relationships in our lives, connections, in our path, things that come into our pathway in an authentic and yet in a real way that we can presence well. So really disentangling, where am I disconnected? What happened? How do I reconnect that if that is possible? And often it's a process, like we've discussed, we are feeding on things to fill a void, perhaps, or there was a trauma from childhood or a past relationship or experience. And so without working through that and finding a transformation of that, it will continue to loop and we'll feel disconnected. So I feel it's important to bring that piece in, if I may. And from that perspective, once we have been able to have iterations of transformation through self-understanding, understanding others, and some of the points that you've brought up too in your program, we're able to come to life with the amount of vulnerability, because to have connection, to have relationship, and to relate, there is a certain amount of vulnerability, and also to come with understanding. And that's how compassion, I feel, also develops. It's understanding ourselves, what connects us, what disconnects us, how we iterate and transform that. And then we come to a space where we are real with each other and others. And that is felt. And when people feel that, then they're in your space, they just feel it. And sometimes they can't articulate it. But because it's felt and they feel understood, there is a deepening of connection, which brings a deepening return of happiness as we're going back and forth in co-creation of life together. So that's my small contribution to our discussion relating to that from my perspective.
That's not a small contribution. That's actually a huge contribution, because what you are thinking there is, you mentioned about disconnected, right? What are we disconnected? So, as we discuss about happiness, as we discuss about, how we are all connected and how we just need to find out that connection and kind of meet with each other. Is the vulnerability that we face, is the challenge we face, is not understanding ourselves, is the key to it. And one of the main thing that we discuss here is every single human being is very powerful. We just don't know it. We have the power that is much more, as we evolve and gather knowledge, we become very powerful. We just don't know it. We just don't know how to use that power in a positive way. And as this coaching becomes very important in this space, to not only uncover that power, but also to bring it up to the surface of, to the level that you can actually apply it, right? In your conscious level to that power. And then you look at some people who are very successful, some people who are very good singers, or athletes, or, business people. All of these powerful things happen because of that uncovering. So each of us have that power. Now the question is what we are good at, or what is that power looks like. And that's where the magic happens with the coaching, is to uncover it, unearth it, and bring it to the surface and become it from the unconscious to conscious level. Because the vast level of unconscious, which we talk about in our dream segment, vast level of unconscious, we have so much things there, and we use so little of that. Mm-hmm. We use so little of that, and coaching is very important. The coaching plays a very important role of tap into our unconscious, because it's a huge area. And as your background is showing the universe,
I was just
galaxy,
thinking that.
yeah, yeah.
The exact same thing. And, as a hypnotherapist,
Mhm.
I started in hypnotherapy. The discovery of access to the subconscious mind and the activation of certain parts of the brain when we're in hypnosis. In fact, I remember some research showed that we use 13% more of our brain in hypnosis
Mhm.
because we're switching off certain parts in terms of the thinking mind. But it doesn't mean we're not aware. It just means that the brainwave state is different. Alpha, theta, and then into delta. And you can go into those using hypnosis when it's used well. I want to caveat that, choosing a hypnotherapist that really has the heart space and knows how to use the technique well is important. But definitely, the subconscious mind has so much wisdom, so much of a latency that we don't have access to in our active beta mind, in terms of the brainwave state, that is helpful to bring to light perspectives that we weren't aware of. And that's what I like it for. It supports deepening perspective in such a way that we get things and understandings that we didn't have before. And the dream state, like you mentioned, is so important. It's where things are thrown out. There are precognitive dreams where we're bringing in information from the environment. And remember, our bodies relate not just to words, but to the environment, to cosmic rhythms, to, for example, moon. When we have a full moon, people do feel the difference in that. So you can see that there is this feedback between the environment and us. And in the night, when our thinking mind is asleep, then the body is able to do the work that it needs to do. The subconscious mind puts things into place, feelings, memories, and so on. And so, if we actively began to understand these and use it, and I use that loosely, and I mean maybe harness it more than use it, harness it for our well being and to understand ourselves more, that's incredible.
Yes, yes, it is. And as you mentioned, in the sleep, our body is active, right? As you can see, we put our mind to, actually mind don't go to sleep because mind continue to work. We put ourself to sleep, but our body is, so the why we are so active. We are like a sponge.
Mm.
We absorb data from every single aspect of our life, including when we are sleeping.
Sources too, Dr. Milu. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think it's important that there are different sources too.
Yes.
We have forgotten that thinking and the mind is not everything. We are not divorcing ourselves here from the body. So the body, we have an unawareness of the body, so to speak. So things like yoga, somatic exercises, which I absolutely love, somatic exercises, they reconnect us with the awareness between mind and body. And that supports what you've been saying this time too. Please, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I thought it was an important caveat or a little addition.
No, that is perfectly added, because as we were discussing about sponge, is we absorb everything around us. We absorb energy that brings in our space, right? So including that energy, and this is all get stored.
Yeah,
Everything that we absorb, it
yeah,
all gets stored in our unconscious mind. So just imagine, based on anybody's age, they may be 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, 60, whatever the age is. That's the years of absorbance, from, and there may be before that, during the time of mother's womb, is the years of absorbing information. That's a huge data, and some data that we can see and feel quickly, but there is so many more around us that we consciously or subconsciously, unconsciously, we don't even touch it. It just automatically get absorbed in our, through our eyes, through our touch, through our smell, through our feelings, our all kind of absorber. So we are a sponge, and once we absorb this huge power, tap into that power is a process of uncovering that mysterious space in our mind, a huge space. And once we uncover that, happiness is something that comes from there very quickly. And the most valuable way we find is you be present, that you mentioned, be present on every single moment, because that moment, once it's gone forever. It's not going to come back. So if you use that moment 100% and be present in that moment, all your relationship will be present, all your relationship will be thriving, and your happiness will have no other way but to thrive. So with that said, if you want to add any more to that, Chiara, let's feel free. I know we are running out of time almost.
I could feel it. Well, I also want to add, what you were talking about before about the subconscious mind, what I found in my practice is that as a very young children, for example, and even babies, they're pre-verbal. So their nervous systems are receiving the feedback via tone and social cues, because we are wired for connection and social engagement. And so from a very young age, we do expect a lot of our children. And we expect them to understand adult cognition, but actually they're not there yet. They're the ones that are still in the body, feeling everything like what we've been discussing. And it's all pre-verbal. And that is actually stored in the subconscious mind. And often it arises and we have no awareness of why or what the feeling is. So I want to say that because if anyone is feeling that, it allows them to put something into place a little bit. The other piece I really want to bring in, which I love to work with, is the heart. The heart and being present and being authentic in connection, and what we've been talking about, including the pursuit of happiness, plays a huge role. And we know from HeartMath Institute's research that the heart is really our intuitive piece. That's where it begins. When we receive information, it comes via the heart first, and then it goes to the brain. And the heart has neurons very similar to the brain. And it's a bottom-up approach, not a top-down approach, which is what the norm has been. And so developing through breathing exercises, the heart space, and supporting the heart to support us, because inevitably when the heartbeat is rhythmic, everything in the nervous system begins to come down into a calm state. And in order for us to really connect with each other, to connect with ourselves, that state is important because it supports presencing. It supports social engagement. It supports the ability for the body to digest and nourish on all those dimensions that we were talking about before. So those are my additions at this point with our discussion.
Fantastic. And I know we talked about that last time, about the heart-based relationship is also very important in the relational dimension. When we are looking for happiness, of course, the heart play a big role in it. And how you can, the mindfulness practices that we do in Vino and Vision, we have yoga and meditation and all those things that we do, including some art and music. The power of music is significant on bringing down the heart to a level of, that your brain now connects with things that it did not connect before. In a different level, the engagement goes significantly higher. So fascinating area of discussion, and we can continue to discuss this years to come. I'm pretty sure it will be after the time we are gone from here. But the main thing to remember in this discussion that we uncovered is multiple, important topics that was discussed today. And, anybody who listening to that and absorbing as much as they can realize that the short time we have, utilize it best and be present every single moment. So happiness is driven by that, your connection, and never be vulnerable or never be hesitant to connect with somebody unknown, because you don't know what is that connection will bring to you. So with that said, Chiara, thank you for coming, and we will see you next month. And next month topic is family, fun, and holidays. And there is multiple holidays coming, so that will be fun thing to do. So enjoy your Thanksgiving, and I'm thankful for everything that we do every single day to everybody all over the world. So thank you very much, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, Dr. Milu. And yes, happy Thanksgiving. And I will see you in December. I look forward to it.
Okay, great. Enjoy.
Bye.
Bye-bye.